Upsets are one of the many reasons why the FIFA World Cup is the greatest sporting event on the globe. Given that the first World Cup took place all the way back in 1930, there is no shortage of memorable surprises to choose from. It's dispassionate to presume that some surprises stand out more than others and are so huge that no one could have possibly seen them coming. Each tournament springs its fair share of curveballs, and nothing sticks in the memory of fans quite like the underdog turning the tables against a giant footballing nation. Welcome to Football Attitude's 11 of the greatest upsets in World Cup history. 11. Cuba defeat Romania in 1938. Until Mexico withdrew from the 1938 FIFA World Cup, the tiny Caribbean island of Cuba wasn't even meant to be a part of the tournament. The Cubans weren't expected to score even a single goal, but they proved the critics wrong by eliminating Romania. The 1938 competition was a straight knockout tournament of 16 nations, and once the tournament began, the Cuban team defeated Romania 2-1 in a replay after a 3-all draw with them in the first round. The first Caribbean team to ever qualify for the World Cup was then eliminated by Sweden 8-0 in the quarterfinals. Since then, Cuba has failed to qualify for another World Cup tournament. 10. The USA defeat England in 1950. The American team that defeated their more polished English opponents at the World Cup contained 8 native-born players and 1 player from the UK. The bookies gave the USA squad no chance of winning since they had lost 7 straight international matches by a combined score of 45-2. Additionally, the squad was made up of part-timers who played in their off hours and gave up their Sundays for the love of the sport. In contrast, the 3 Lions fielded legendary names such as Alf Ramsey, Billy Wright, Tom Finney, and Stan Mortensen. However, the only goal of the game was scored by a Haitian-American dishwasher named Joseph Gaetjens. England would then be eliminated from the tournament 2 days later after losing to Spain. The US team was also knocked out in the group stage as they lost their other 2 matches, but given their anonymity on the footballing map, the triumph over England was something entirely spectacular. 9. North Korea shocked Italy in 1966. The idea of a team like North Korea getting the better of a team like Italy today is ridiculous and unthinkable. While both of these teams looked undeniably different back in 1966, the gulf between them was just as significant. North Korea was expected to finish pointsless and to be dominated every minute of every game. During a 3-0 loss to the Soviet Union, this was the case, but they managed to shock the world in their next group game when they beat Italy 1-0. In the group's final game, they nearly secured an even more significant shock result when they went 3-0 up against Eusebio's Portugal, but the star striker dragged Portugal back into the game and eventually trounced North Korea 5-3. 8. Scotland edged the Netherlands in 1978. Johan Cruyff took the Netherlands to the World Cup final in 1974, winning the player of the tournament for his brilliant performances. Unfortunately, they couldn't overcome a strong West German side in the final. While their magic midfielder had retired by the time the 1978 World Cup came around, they were still expected to breeze through the group stage. This was the era of total football after all. Holland would face a massive bump in the road in the form of Scotland, a team that the Netherlands were expected to dominate, but one that eventually defeated them 3-2. Of course, the Scots were the better team on the day, but they didn't make it out of the group, while the Netherlands made it to their second final in 2 consecutive World Cups. 7. Northern Ireland surprised Spain in 1982. Northern Ireland were taking part in just their second World Cup when the 1982 edition came about, having only previously played at the 1958 event. But in their final group match, they would proceed to make their mark on the world stage. Having drawn their first 2 matches, the Green and White Army went up against host Spain and managed to pull off a shock 1-0 victory at the Estadio Luis Casanova thanks to Jerry Armstrong's strike. To make the victory even more impressive, the Northern Irish played the final half hour with 10 men after Mal Donaghy was shown a straight red and still managed to hold on for the win. 6. Algeria surprised West Germany in 1982. During the 1982 World Cup, Algeria upset West Germany 2-1 in Gijón with a winning goal scored by then African Footballer of the Year, Lakhdar Belloumi. In Algeria's finest hour, Belloumi assisted one and scored the winner after Germany's Karl-Heinz Rummenigge had equalized. However, this wasn't the first time the North Africans had defeated the Germans, having edged a friendly 1-0 in 1966. But this wasn't a friendly, it was the World Cup, and thanks to Jamel Zidane's ingenuity and Belloumi's winning goal, the Algerian people celebrated a triumphant sporting victory. Algeria's brilliance was to be eclipsed by the disgrace of Gijón, in which West Germany and Austria played out a non-aggressive pact match to give the Germans a 1-0 victory that saw both nations safely through to the next round at the expense of Algeria, who were knocked out. 5. Cameroon overcome Argentina in 1990. 4 years prior, Diego Maradona, in the peak of his footballing powers, had led his country to glory in Mexico, and La Albiceleste were fancied to retain the title in Italy. Given that Cameroon were making only their second appearance in the prestigious tournament, the African minnows were not expected to cause the South American giants any problems in their opening tie. During the game, Cameroon had defender Andre Canabiik sent off in the 61st minute, but that didn't stop them, as his brother Francois Omambiik managed to find the back of the net just 6 minutes later. The indomitable Lions were down to 9 as centre-half Benjamin Massing was also shown red 2 minutes from the end of normal time, but they managed to fend off Maradona and co. to clinch a 1-0 win. Cameroon ended up reaching the quarterfinals, the first African nation to achieve this feat, where they were unfortunately knocked out 3-2 by England after extra time. 4. Bulgaria knock out Germany in 1994. The defending champions Germany seemed to be on their way to reaching their 4th consecutive World Cup final when they met Bulgaria in the quarterfinals. Germany scored the first goal of the match via penalty kick early on in the second half, but Bulgaria answered the Germans by scoring back-to-back goals late in the match. Jordan Lechkov was the hero, scoring the winning goal after Hristoj Stoichkov equalized 3 minutes earlier. Since 1978, Germany had never lost after scoring first in a World Cup game. In spite of this, Bulgaria proceeded to the semi-finals where they faced off with Italy but ended up getting eliminated after losing 2-1. 3. Senegal stunned France in 2002. Playing at your first ever World Cup can be daunting for any team, but being drawn against the defending champions in the tournament's opening match was no doubt a challenge for Senegal as they debuted in the 2002 edition. Nevertheless, the Lions of Teranga produced a battling performance to down Les Bleus 1-0, with defensive midfielder Papa Bouba Diop grabbing the only goal of the game in the 30th minute. The African nation defended with discipline in their 4-5-1 formation and occasionally stretched the French on the counter-attack, with a lively El Hadji Diouf unnerving the aging central defensive pairing of Marcel Desailly and Frank Leboeuf. Zinedine Zidane's absence was felt, but even with Thierry Henry, David Trezeguet and Robert Pires on the pitch, France were unable to breach the Senegalese defense. This stunning loss would set the tone for France's disastrous campaign as they finished bottom of Group A with 1 point and 0 goals. Senegal would surpass all expectations and reach the quarterfinals, where they were knocked out by Turkey. 2. South Korea shocked Italy in 2002. The 2002 World Cup was full of shocks, as another came in the last 16th stage of the tournament when South Korea, joint hosts with Japan, knocked out the 4-time champions Italy in extra time. Striker Christian Vieri had given Italy an early 1-0 lead, but with just 2 minutes of normal time remaining, Sol Ki-hyun, spurred on by the partisan home crowd, found the equalizer. Attacking midfielder An Jung-hwan then grabbed the golden goal in the 117th minute to the devastation of the Italians. South Korea then proceeded to shock another historic footballing nation in Spain, eliminating them in the quarterfinals on penalties before eventually losing to Germany in the semis. 1. Germany destroy Brazil in 2014. The 2014 World Cup semi-final between Brazil and Germany was expected to be a close affair. Both of these nations were certified World Cup royalty, with Brazil boasting a record 5 titles and Germany coming in second with 4, level with Italy. Neither of the two, Germany nor Brazil, could ever be considered your typical underdog given their pedigree and rich history in the tournament. Brazil were without their star defender Thiago Silva and their star striker Neymar, but they were the hosts, and as a result, many expected them to triumph over Germany. However, within half an hour, the game was over and Brazil's hopes were quashed. Germany opened the scoring in the 11th minute before adding a second in the 23rd. Before Brazil could come to terms with what was happening, the Germans had added another and another, basically scoring for fun. With 30 minutes gone, it was 5-0 and the watching world was in utter disbelief. Brazil's hopes of clinching a 6th World Cup on home soil were brought to a humiliating and brutal end at the hands of a ruthless Germany who mercilessly dismantled them 7-1. At the final whistle, Brazilian men, women, and children in attendance were left shell-shocked, haunted, and utterly inconsolable. The episode plunged the whole nation of Brazil into mourning, while Germany went on to be crowned champions of the world after defeating Messi's Argentina 1-0 in the final.